how we do things as human beings, right? The decisions we make, what informs the choices that we make. They create actual social connections. So I was like, hey, I want to be in that world.
And South Africans, I love this about us, and I am the same. We're not afraid to call people out.
It's a whole co-creation. It's actually getting out there, sitting with the consumers, having proper insights around why do they use what they use.
What advice would you give someone like me about kind of making sure that marketing ties in, plays well with business strategy?
Marketing is not just a department, it is the business.
Hello, and welcome to South Africa Tech Marketers, where I uncover the journeys of marketers who are absolutely thriving in South Africa and beyond in the hope of helping you do the same. My name is Kirsty Lang. I'm a senior content writer working remotely in Cape Town, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by someone whose marketing career spans 2 decades, multiple industries, and more than a few iconic brands. Before we dive in, a quick word from our sponsor, the Global Talent Company. If you're a South African marketer looking to land your dream remote job, or if you're a global company looking to hire standout South African talent, I highly recommend that. Check them out at globaltalent.co. The link is also in the show notes. Now, joining me today is Nthabiseng Makgatho, a brand and marketing strategy consultant who has worked with powerhouse names like Xero, Mukuru, Santam, and Hollard. She spent time both agency side and in-house, and she brings a unique mix of data-driven strategy, creative problem-solving, and brave brand thinking to every role she takes on. Nthabiseng, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you so much, Kirsty. Thank you for having me on your show. Sure, sometimes you sit back and you don't realize how much you've actually, gained through your career until somebody actually kind of summarizes it into like 30 seconds. Well, quick type of commercial.
Well, I will definitely say that when I went through your LinkedIn profile and all that, kind of condensing all that you have done into like a short little blurb, I could have spent like 3 minutes talking about your career. So yeah, that was definitely one of the tougher ones that I've had to do, but I'm glad you were happy with it.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of your career, Nthabi, let's start with your story. You have worked across so many industries and roles. What first drew you to marketing, and how has your path evolved over the last 20 years?
Sure. Thanks for that question. I think, speaking of mics, that's why I invested in a lapel mic. These little ones are just wonderful.
So
they're like so cute, and I have a normal mic, and I actually once connected it, and I was like, no, this thing is just cumbersome. It's on my face. I don't know where to look, because you actually tend to want to sit and watch it. This is the baby.
I need to invest.
So just in terms of how I got into this marketing world. So I started out my career in advertising. And essentially what really drew me into the space was really, I think, the psychology of marketing. I remember, growing up, and I've always been interested in human psychology, human minds, human interactions, just, how we do things as human beings, right? The decisions we make, what informs the choices that we make, right? And I think when I decided on my careers, I did a couple of, let me see, do I want to go into psychology for real, as in the clinical stuff? Had conversations with one of my cousins, and she was, and I think after I left that session, I was like, no, maybe not. So how about I try another different kind of psychology? And I think that's what marketing was for me. I got into that space and just reading about it. So I went into an open day at the AAA School of Advertising at the time, and literally just got, the different aspects of what marketing is related to business, etc. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. And then took it back into our household, right? TV, seeing all the wonderful ads. And I think one ad that really comes to mind that I completely loved was a very old school, it's a telecom ad. It goes, Molum Shabam. I think everybody, if you Google Molum Shabam, you will get it. And for me, what that ad did, just seeing that, it actually just showed how beautiful storytelling can be, how, if done right, brands can actually build impactful interactions with consumers, address customer needs in a way that, you know what, they create actual social connections. So I was like, hey, I want to be in that world. I want to be able to sit there, tell stories, and just influence people through, you know, insight and actually understanding their actual needs. So I was like, okay, that's where I want to be. And then fast forward, here I am 20 years later, advertising, marketing, and actually I don't think I can ever do anything else, you know, beyond what I'm doing. But it's actually been quite an incredible journey. Love every moment of it.
I love that. I think so many people, so I kind of came from journalism and worked my way into marketing. And I think kind of in the media, because obviously it's a very, excuse me as I just go down a rabbit hole here. It's a calling career, right? Because you don't earn a lot of money. But you work really hard and you have to go into oftentimes dangerous situations and hear really hard stories. So the perception is that moving into marketing is like selling out. Whereas the way that you've laid it out now, no, I just think people don't understand this, is the way that you're, like the ad you referenced and how meaningful that is to you and how it sticks in your mind, the way that you create connections between people. It's, I don't know, it's just, there is something in creating a resource that helps someone, you know, whether they end up buying or not, or creating a moment where they feel an emotional connection, not just to your company, but to South Africa or to their culture or to their heritage. I think there is so much magic in that. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I love the way that you explain that.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. I think on that, you know, it actually just reminds me of, I think, a quote from Seth Godin, who used to say, like, you know, marketing is not about the stuff that you sell to people. It's about the stories you tell, right? So, you know, we are in the space of storytelling. We are in the space of making the rational irrational type thing, you know, creating an emotion to kind of say, you know, you sometimes walk into a shop and you're like, do I really need that? You know? Oh, you're watching once again the Coca-Cola thing, and now all of a sudden you're thirsty for Coke. Like, do you really want the Coke?
I'm thirsty right now. Like,
you know, and it's in the way that, you know, it's portrayed, like the creativity of it, the once again, I mean, absolutely the stories, because, you know, you're having a conversation, not just with my mind, but you're having a conversation with my heart, right? You are telling me I need this in a way that, and that's why I keep saying it's psychological. Like all of this, it's all psychological. It's subliminal. And, but I mean, we'll talk later on, but just how it's actually even evolved, right? You know, that even consumers are making up their own stories about, you know, brands and stuff that they like and all of those wonderful things. So definitely, I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to be in this wonderful world, right?
I love that you just referenced that, Nthabi. Can we go down? Can we talk about that a little bit now, about how it's evolved and people making their own stories? I'd love that, and I want to dig in because I know I'm going to get distracted by asking you other questions and your brilliant answers. So let's go down there now.
Yeah, sure. So I think for one, I think we're in a space where it's no longer about a company or brands sitting in the boardroom and having their wonderful business strategies and saying, hey, look at this wonderful product, and between sales and marketing, it's okay, marketing, go take it out there. It's actually everybody bootstrapping and being on the ground and understanding that if we are creating this product, you know, what does it mean to whoever our intended audience is, right? And how do we create and co-create, rather? Like I always, every time I'm in, like, sitting there with my team, it's a whole co-creation. It's actually getting out there, sitting with the consumers, having proper insights around why do they use what they use? Why do they go with one brand over the other, you know, because sometimes you find that it does the same thing, because, as they say, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just the positioning and the emotional connection that each brand has essentially built and developed over time, interacting with them. But it's just understanding the connection between the brand and the actual individual or the consumer that's actually consuming that brand. So I always talk about, it may get, loosely thrown out there, but, authenticity, credibility, accountability, I think those three are quite key in actually me as a consumer interacting with the brand, because as a marketer and a brand team, you are essentially the face of the business, right? So making sure that whatever stories you are putting out there about the business, they actually also resonate even within the business itself. So consumers are sitting there and they're watching. So any little shake of, you're not being real, you're not being authentic, you're not being credible, and they will test you, right? And in that test, the accountability comes in. Like, how are you going to respond when I say, hey, this is what's happened? What are you going to do about it? We're having conversations with some friends the other day, like just different stories that you get. Like, I had a Le Creuset, oven dish, crack
my face
after I think 5 years that I've had it, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, my heart, how much I spent this
for this to happen. 5 years.
So I was like, I was happy that I didn't need to go rant on social media. I literally walked into Le Creuset and I said, guys, this cracked. I don't have the receipt anymore. It's been years. I've moved around houses. I don't know where it is, but I bought it with you guys, right? And luckily, obviously, they've got a database. They looked at the system, but that particular dish didn't show up on the system, right? To say, okay, you bought it and such and such. They're like, no, we can see you bought this and this and other stuff, but this particular one is not there. And I sat there with that. I looked at them and I was like, okay, what are we going to do now? It says Le Creuset, it doesn't say anything else. Like, what are we going to do about that? Just because it's not on the system, not my fault. Maybe you updated your system later on, that's not even. So what I loved about that, actually, that lady's service was that we didn't actually even need to get into that conversation. She was like, this pen is not necessarily on the system, but I will absolutely replace it for you. Non-negotiable. Here's a new one. Please choose another one. I was like, hey, happiness. And I was like, there we go. Like, that is the kind of accountability that, consumers are looking for, and also, your brand promise says a lifetime. This is whatever I buy from the Creuset is a lifetime. So if it cracks on the oven, that ain't a lifetime promise. So, back to the credibility and authenticity. And also, I think one of the biggest thing now is obviously the evolution of technology, right? So reputations are built and destroyed within seconds, because consumers now have the power to just literally, I can do a 10-minute reel on TikTok and rant about how upset I was, and that's why I was like, see, at least I didn't need to go through that route with my Le Creuset stuff. So, if you are not able to manage your brand's reputation or even your interaction from across channels, and sometimes it's hard, and especially for big brands, because you'll have 20 branches in different places, and you go to one place, the service is great. You go to another, it's but we don't do that here. And you're like, but actually you should be doing it everywhere because you are one brand. And for me, that's even like within the whole authenticity and credibility, because if I go into a Wulutia, I expect that when I get to Joburg, I'm getting the same experience. And even if I'm in the middle of Pooploofville or wherever that is.
For sure that town exists somewhere in South Africa.
This is South Africa. We have wonderful spaces. You expect that, yes, it can be at a smaller scale compared to a metropolitan area, but there are things that that from a service perspective, I'm expecting them to treat me like this. I'm expecting them to actually understand my needs in a certain way. So I think, that's essentially for me, the key aspects of, how things have evolved, and things can change literally like overnight if you don't manage.
I love that. I love that you've mentioned that as well, because it's not something we often get into on this podcast. We kind of talk about marketing, and here are these shiny campaigns that I've worked on, and here are the metrics. But marketing is, I don't know, it's so much bigger than that. That consultant that you spoke to at Creuset was marketing when she was dealing with you. That's customer support, but it is also influencing your brand perception. And as marketers, we have only so much control over those interactions at all these touch points, right? And South Africans, I love this about us, and I'm the same. We're not afraid to call people out. Whether publicly, whether we're marching into the Creuset with our broken dish, you've promised something, and I will hold you to that.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's something that's really important for marketers to remember, I think.
No, 100%. And I think when I have conversations internally, because obviously we've got like cross-functional teams, every campaign has to have somebody from either product, from sales. We're all on the same team. It's not, I always say, it's not a marketing project. So if anyone comes back and says, oh, marketing didn't, like, no, it's not a marketing didn't do this. It's we didn't do this. And I think it goes back into and probably some of the lessons that I've learned in my career, that, we all need to be aligned as a business, from the minute we are doing our strat sessions. I know back in the days, there would be situations where it would be business stuff, the strategy, and then they come back and they're like, oh, we need marketing. And then marketing gets plugged in right at the bottom. And you're like, guys, had you involved me from the top, I can tell you that wasn't going to work. This product is not, you can literally see things, because as a marketer, I sit there and I'm wearing my customer's hat. I'm wearing the person that I need to now go out with sales to go and sell this product to. So it's important for the alignment to happen, and especially internally. So marketing cannot just independently say, yay, we've got a campaign. Let's go do this, right?
Yeah, don't write checks that the other teams can't cash.
No,
I think.
No, because otherwise, man, you'll end up with interesting things. I mean, I've been, and talking about my consulting, I've been to companies where I will actually find situations where it would be, oh no, the last marketing person did this and we don't know what to do with it. So it's like, okay, but you just accepted it? So why? It's like, well, because we thought, it needed to be done. But it was like, was it aligned to the business strategy? Was that what you needed? Or was it just, marketing is not just here to get the work done. It's important what work marketing is doing, because they are the business. And also marketing is not just a department. It is the business. So each and every one of us has to be on the same page. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
I love that. That was such a great clip moment. Just absolute chef's kiss. And you've also led me perfectly into the next question that I wanted to ask you. So having held such senior roles at so many big South African brands, what if those high-level positions taught you about aligning marketing with business strategy? So I would consider myself mid to senior level in my career. And that's something that I think I still need to work on. So what advice would you give someone like me about kind of making sure that marketing ties in or plays well with business strategy?
I think the biggest lessons I've learned, and actually having gone from big corporations into even smaller companies, the business of the business is your business as a marketer. Don't know if that makes sense. But
I love it. Yes.
it is your business to understand how the business ticks. It is your business to understand, from, once again, cross-team collaboration. How does product work? How does sales work? How does even finance work, right? Because you don't want to be in a space where you're like, I need a budget. And they're like, no, we don't have the budget, but you're not understanding where is the money actually going with the business? Because then that also enables you to sit back and actually, it informs your level of creativity. For sales, if you've got 5 people as your sales force and yet you want to do a national campaign, how's that gonna work? Good luck trying to do that. Good luck. If from a product perspective, do you understand the actual product that you're going out to sell? It's not, it's all good and well to come up with ideas, work with creative agency, build this wonderful thing. But if you were to walk in the street and somebody was to approach you, and say, actually, I've got this thing and, I don't know how it works. An example of, getting out in the streets, and I've had these like quite often where, when I was insurance, and everybody knew that she was Miss Insurance Good and Proper back then with Santam. So the yellow umbrella girl, like I walked around with my yellow umbrella, but I would get questions around, how does it work? Da, 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 what's the best? And literally I had to be a salesperson.
I don't envy you.
And you have to be a salesperson.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And it was just like that with my Mukuru days, because you're on the ground and everybody, sees you talking about Mukuru, like you can send money home, do what you need to do. Now I have to explain it, and I had to have my own card as well. I had to be registered on the app, show everybody how it works, even when I'm not working. So, once again, like the business of marketing is the business of, the business. So we all need to be aligned. We all need to know what the business is about. Otherwise, what is there and what are you doing actually, in those companies that you're in? So I think that was the biggest lessons for me. And I think also just tapping into, do I call it the art of positioning? So, how do you, and I think I've worked with some of the greatest brands, in terms of, how we found ways to distinctly position ourselves in the minds of consumers, right? Creating that emotional connection, creating that impactful connection that, as I mentioned earlier on, the yellow umbrella. Everybody knew what the yellow umbrella is.
Nthabi, that was everything that I was hoping to cover today. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all of those hard-won insights. If folks are looking to connect with Nthabi, you will find her on LinkedIn. We will include the link in the show notes. But if you're looking to connect with more folks like Nthabi and me, you can absolutely hop into the SA Tech Marketers community. It is a Slack space where we are learning and growing and sharing wins and gifts and all sorts of things. We would love to have you there. So we will include that link to join in the show notes as well. I hope you found the show helpful.